Good morning and welcome to First Parish Brewster. We are a Unitarian, Universalist, welcoming congregation of people of diverse philosophies and beliefs, people of various cultures and races, sexual orientations, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your path, may this be a place of rest and restoration on your journey. For those of you who may be first-time visitors this morning, welcome. Welcome on this morning, which we make sacred by our presence together. If you're visiting, please let us know in the chat box. A big welcome to people calling in. We are glad you're here. I am Twinks Hastings, Director of Lifespan Religious Education at First Parish. Happy to be welcoming you to the service this morning with Philip Brown on tech support. We offer a big welcome to our guest minister this morning, Reverend Aisha Ansano. Rev Aisha is the affiliated community minister at First Parish in Malden, Mass, and a co-founder of Nourish UU. Rev Aisha and Rev Emily Conger created Nourish to help Unitarian Universalists spread connection, ritual, and an expansive sense of family in their communities. Nourish adapts embodied, participatory dinner church worship to meet the needs of every community. You can learn more about Nourish and Dinner Church at nourishuu.org. Our service has closed captioning. You need to turn it on in your taskbar. Our services are recorded and available on our YouTube channel midweek. Please mark your calendars for our budget and annual meeting presentation next Sunday at 11:30. This will be the time to discuss the budget and motions up for vote at our annual meeting. All members are welcome at 11:30. Additionally, please mark your calendars for our first outside service on Sunday, June 20th. More details to come. This month, we are accepting submissions for our split plates for the next year. You will find the link to the form on the weekly angle or our website. Next Sunday, you're invited to join us as we celebrate the end of this extraordinary children and youth ministry church year in a service entitled Zooming Out of the Tunnel. This service will include a bridging ceremony for our 3 seniors. All are welcome online at 10 a.m. So ends our announcements. Welcome to worship this morning. It is so good to be together.
It is wonderful to be with you this morning, Brewster. Thank you for having me back. To fully participate in today's service, I invite you to gather your chalice or candle or the flame in your heart so that we can mark this space together as sacred. And I also invite you to gather a couple bites of food or a few sips of drink. They can be real or imaginary, for our meditation and blessing. And make sure you save some of that for the end of the service. So now let us light our chalices with these words by the Reverend Dr. Orlando Brugnola. Flame, friend of our most ancient ancestors, we kindle you now to make you visible in this time. Yet in truth you burn always, in the unique worth of each person, in the imagination, in the turning of the heart to sorrow or joy, in the call to hope and in the call to justice. Burn bright before us, burn bright within us. Let us enter into this space nourished by the love and warmth of community. And I invite you now to gather some food or drink, real or imaginary, for our meditation moment. This is called a mindful bite. Wherever you are in this moment, whether you have actual food in front of you or are simply imagining it, I invite you to enter into this bite or sip mindfully, to slow down. Take a breath in and let it out. Let your body relax. And now focus on this bite or sip. It is powerful. It has the power to nourish your body, the body that you rely on in order to be the person you are in this world. And it connects us all in this moment as we take time to share a meal, even though we're not in the same physical space. We are grounded in the moment by sharing this food and drink. And so I invite you to contemplate it, to use all 5 of your senses. What does this food or drink look like? What colors and shapes does it have? What can you smell? Is it sweet or savory, bitter, salty? How does it feel in your hands? What textures does it hold? Is it smooth or sticky, crumbly or firm? And what temperature? Is it hot, cold, warm? And finally, take that bite or sip. What does it taste like? What does it feel like in your mouth? Enjoy it as long as possible. Savor it. Allow yourself to be nourished. And as this bite or sip sustains you, I invite you to cultivate gratitude for all the hands it had to pass through to get to you today. Those who sowed and sold seeds, who cultivated plants and animals, those who picked and packaged and transported it near and far, those who processed it, who sold it, who prepared it, and who brought it to your table. Whether what you are eating to drink or drinking today came directly from your own garden or from far, far away, we know that nothing finds its way to our tables without passing through the hands of many, many other people. And so we remember that we are always connected to each other, and that our nourishment and sustenance is always supported by so many people. Notice the contributions they bring to nourishing your body and the ways in which you carry that nourishment in your life into everything you do. Let this cycle of nourishment bless you as you are. I invite you to take a moment of silent reflection. Amen.
Our reading this morning is The Tale of the Stone Soup, adapted by John Muth. 3 monks traveled along a mountain road. They talked about cat whiskers, the color of the sun, and whatever else came to mind. "What makes one happy?" asked the youngest monk. The old and the wisest monk said, "Let's find out." The monks found themselves gazing down at the rooftops of a village below. The monks knew the village had been through many hard times, and the villagers had even become suspicious of their neighbors. The villagers worked hard, but only for themselves. They had little to do with one another. When the monks came down, the villagers disappeared into their houses, and no one came to the gate to greet them. Even the windows were closed tight. The monks knocked on the doors, but there was no answer. These people do not know happiness, they all agreed. But today, we will show them how to make stone soup. They gathered twigs and made a fire. They placed a small tin pot on top and filled it with water. A brave little girl who had been watching came to them. "What are you doing?" they asked. "We are making stone soup, and we need 3 round, smooth stones," said the monk. The little girl helped, and the monk found 3 perfectly round stones. "These stones will make excellent soup," said the oldest monk. "But this very small pot won't make much." The little girl ran home to get her mother's big pot. "The 3 strangers are making soup from stones," she said. The monks poked the coals. As smoke drifted up, the neighbors peered out from their windows. They found the monks, the fire, and the large pot in the middle of the village very curious indeed. One by one, the villagers came out to see just what this stone soup was. "Of course, old-style stone soup should be well seasoned with salt and pepper," said the young monk, "but we have none." "I have some salt and pepper," said a villager, and disappeared and came back with the spices. The old monk took a taste. "The last time we had stone soup of this size and color, carrots made the broth very sweet." "Carrots?" said a woman from the back. "I may have a few carrots." And she returned with as many carrots as she could carry and dropped them into the pot. "Do you think it would be better with onions?" asked the other monk. "Oh, yes. Maybe an onion would taste good," said a farmer, and he left and returned in a moment with 5 big onions. He dropped them into the bubbling soup. Something magical began to happen among the villagers. As each person opened his or her heart to give, the next person gave even more. The monks simply stirred and the pot bubbled. At last, the soup was ready. The villagers gathered together. Everyone sat down to eat. They had not been together for a feast like this for as long as anyone could remember. After the banquet, they told stories, sang songs, and celebrated long into the night. Then they unlocked their doors and windows and took the monks into their homes and gave them very comfortable places to sleep. In the gentle spring morning that came the next day, everyone gathered together to say farewell. "Thank you for having us as your guests," said the monks. "You have been most generous." "Thank you," said the villagers. "With the gifts you have given, we will always have plenty. You have shown us that sharing makes us all richer." "And to think," said the monks, "to be happy is as simple as making stone soup."
Thank you, Twinks. I love the story of stone soup, not just because it's about food, but because of the things that it can teach us about how to be in community with each other. The world feels really, really big sometimes. Sometimes it feels so overwhelming that even answering the door to help a few strangers is a little bit too much. The stories that we tell ourselves sometimes say that there isn't enough for everyone, that we have to hold so tight to the things we have, because if we share them, then we won't even have what we need to survive and make it through. We tell ourselves these stories because they feel true. When the world around us is overwhelming, we want to hold on tight to everything we have because we're not sure there's going to be enough for everyone. Those stories we think serve us well. But what the monks helped the villagers in the story to learn is that if we loosen our grip just a little bit, if we share the things that we have, it actually all comes together to be even better than we could imagine. If all I had for dinner was a bunch of carrots, or a pinch of salt and pepper, or some onions, I would be pretty worried about whether I'd be going hungry. And I wouldn't want to share those carrots, those spices, those onions with strangers at my door, because then what would I eat? But the monks helped the villagers to understand that while what we each individually have might not be very much, when we put it together, it is an abundance that can nourish the whole community. A bunch of carrots, a pinch of salt and pepper, 5 onions. None of those are a meal on their own. But when we combine them with what everyone else has to offer, then we get an amazing pot of soup. It can be really hard to reframe these stories for ourselves. We tell them because they serve us well when things are hard. But if we can take the time to slow down, to examine these stories and figure out what new things we can try, we might be surprised by the ways that our gifts combine to nourish the community. So, we are going to spend a few minutes now in breakout rooms. I'm going to invite you to have deeper connections, to have the kinds of conversations you might have if you were sitting around the table. So, in a moment, you'll get sorted into a smaller room. And I invite you to reflect on either or both of these questions. What is something you have to offer that might feel small, but that can nourish the people around you? And how might you reframe the stories that you tell yourself about what you have to offer? Once you're in your breakout rooms, I invite you to take about a minute per person to share your answers. You can do it popcorn style, but I find it can work really well to do mutual invitation, where once you're finished sharing, you invite someone else to share their answers. You are, of course, welcome to pass if that is what you are feeling, but I hope that you'll feel comfortable sharing something, whatever level of sharing feels good to you. And once everyone is shared, you can keep talking about the questions or the story or whatever else is coming up for you about reframing the stories about what we have to offer. So, again, those questions are: what's something you have to offer that might feel small, but that can nourish those around you? And how might you reframe the stories that you tell yourself about what you have to offer? One thing that feels small that I have to offer is that I think I'm a pretty good listener. And when there are so many things going on in the world, that doesn't feel like very much at all. It feels like I should be doing so many other things. But I've learned that if I spend a little time letting people share and really deeply listening to what they have to say, then they're able to relieve some of their burden. They're able to take their time and energy, not to worry about those things, but to do other things instead. So rather than thinking about my small act of listening as not enough, as not something that contributes much to the world, I've started to think about it as a way to help people regain energy and time in their lives to do the powerful work that they want to do. It's not always easy for me to do that reframing, but I find it does help a lot when I'm able to do it. So I hope that you have powerful conversations in your groups about what you have to offer and how you might reframe the stories you tell about what you have to offer. I will see you back in about 10 minutes, and I hope you have wonderful conversations. Welcome back, folks. It is always so fun to see you all trickling back onto the screen. We'll wait just a moment until folks are all back, but I hope that you had really wonderful, powerful conversations in your groups. So give us just a few seconds till everyone is back. All right, I think we may have all made our way back. So I hope you had powerful conversations, and I would love to hear a bit in the chat about what came out of your conversations. Maybe there were some themes or trends that you noticed in your breakout room, or someone said something that really sparked a new way of thinking for you. So the chat is open if you would like to share those, and I'll read some of them out loud. I always find it really powerful to hear what other folks talked about. Either sometimes I see, oh, it's very similar to what we talked about, and so that's helpful. And sometimes it's something I never even thought of, which helps spark more questions and thoughts for me. So if there's anything that you want to share, feel free to put it in the chat, and I will read it out loud, and we can start to get a sense of what folks were talking about, what things you have to offer that seem small, and how you might reframe your stories around them. Maria says, learning to value your own voice in service of community. That is so powerful to do that reframing for yourself that your voice is powerful and can be a big part of how you do work in community. Petrie says, surprisingly, the members of the breakout group felt they didn't have enough to give, but once they started sharing, it was clear we all had plenty. I think that's such a big thing, that it's really easy to convince yourself that what you have is not very much. And so being in community, that's part of the work of community, right? Is to remind each other that you do have enough. Susan says her perennial plants as something she has to offer. And Janet says being able to give even a little can be good enough. That is such a powerful reminder, right? That just a little can be enough. We don't have to give absolutely everything. We don't have to exhaust ourselves in every moment. We can just give what we can. Learning how to do it by doing it, not waiting until we have spent all the time learning the perfect way to do something, but knowing that by trying it out, we can learn what works and what doesn't. Roseanne says, kindness is an important gift to share, and it can take many forms, right? You don't have to offer exactly what someone else has to offer. You offer yours, and it may look different. It may be different, but that can also be powerful. One person who planned to donate blood invited his friend to join him, creating double a good deed and having a nice visit at the same time in the donor chairs. That's fantastic. That takes care of yourself, takes care of your friend, and contributes and multiplies out into the world. Barbara makes boxes of small items which she sends all over the world. Joy can be contagious. All of these things that you talked about are so powerful. If more things come to mind, you are welcome to share them in the chat as we move into the offering. It is so powerful to get a chance to see what other folks learned about and talked about and see how it might inspire us. So thank you for sharing.
Each week at First Parish, we have the practice of splitting our plate. Half of what is collected goes to the work of First Parish, and half goes to a worthy organization. Our community organization this week is Lower Cape Outreach Council. The mission of Lower Cape Outreach Council is to provide emergency assistance of food, clothing, and financial support to residents of the 8 towns that constitute Lower Cape Cod, and to follow up with services and support in the areas of employment and education. They provide payments for electricity, heat, rent, mortgage, prescription medications, and transportation. They also provide clothing, mentorship, and sponsor 8 food pantries on the Lower Cape. Today, we ask you to donate towards the work of this important organization that is making a difference in people's lives right here on Cape Cod. There are a couple of ways you can give today. You can text to give, the number is in the chat box, or you can mail a check to the church made out to FPBUU with split plate and today's date. You can also donate on our website. However you choose to give, we thank you for your generosity this morning. The offertory will now be gratefully accepted.
There is room at the table for everyone, and we all have something to contribute to the abundance of the table. And so I invite you now into a ritual called an agape feast, a love feast. We are going to feed each other, like the villagers in the stone soup story fed each other. If your Zoom is not already on gallery view, I invite you to do that so that we can all see the gathered community for this blessing. The way this is going to work is that I invite you to find another bite of food, a sip of drink, real or imaginary. And you can imbue it with something you have to offer if you'd like, or you can simply have it be food or drink. And we will hold it up to the camera and say a blessing. I offer this in the spirit of love and nourishment. And then to receive the blessing, you will take a bite or sip to receive. So first I will offer a blessing to all of you, and then I will invite you into offering blessings to one another. So beloveds, I offer this in the spirit of love and nourishment. So now I invite you to choose someone on the call to look at, to hold up your food or drink, and to say to them, I offer this food in the spirit of love and nourishment. And now choose one other person who is here today. Look at them, hold up your offering, and say, I offer this in a spirit of love and nourishment. May we all be blessed and nourished by what each other has to offer. Even when we are exhausted and overwhelmed, may we remember that our stories are full of connection and communal nourishment, and may we help each other to go on. As we extinguish our chalices, remember that you are held in blessing. Go in peace.